What's up from Cleveland, Ohio? If you're watching my videos in order, you realize the last video I posted was me exploring Hanoi, Vietnam. And it's a huge jump to go from Vietnam to the Midwest United States. That's why I'm recording this video, to give you a massive update and also to allow my videos to catch up to real time, because right now they are a few months behind. So let's take it step by step. I left Vietnam at the end of May and ended my Southeast Asian leg of my gap year. And I am using air quotes because this has morphed into something completely different, which was the point. My goal leaving Vietnam was to go to Utah and celebrate my birthday with my friends and family. While I was planning my flights back, I was kind of looking at where I wanted to have my layover. There's no direct flights from Hanoi to Salt Lake City directly, and so I was kind of being strategic about where I wanted to stop over, and I decided that I wanted to spend a long weekend in Hawaii. I had visited the islands multiple times, and I wanted to go back to Oahu, which I visited in 2021, and kind of do like a pre-birthday solo celebration with fewer restrictions. So I booked a flight, I booked my hostel, and I was getting ready to go. I was super excited. Now, if you remember, I was able to secure some dog sitting in Singapore back in March of this year. In exchange for watching some really cute doggos, I was able to stay in people's homes and not have to pay for accommodation while I visited the island country for 3 weeks. I loved it. Animal therapy and not having to pay for accommodations. So after I booked my stuff for Oahu, I decided I might as well just take a look and see if anybody needed pet sitting done around the time I was gonna be there. And wouldn't you know, somebody was in need of a 2-week sit on Maui right at the time that I was going to be arriving. It was meant to be. So even though it was on a completely different island, I was able to find a pretty cheap puddle jumper to take me from Oahu to Maui. I was able to cancel my hostel on Oahu with no problem and kind of begin this new chapter of my life. And this is what my days looked like. During this time when I decided that I needed to look for a remote job. I loved backpacking Southeast Asia, but the reality was that I needed an income. And maybe I'm just getting older, but I needed to have a steady income rather than the short gigs that I'd been able to find. And at this point, I was also starting to think about what the rest of my year was going to look like. I wasn't ready to go back to Southeast Asia in the middle of the summer with rainy season, and I don't want to resettle back in Utah. I mean, I'll always find my way back to Utah because I have friends and family that live there that I love and I want to see, but the truth is, I'm not ready to settle down anywhere. While I was in Hawaii, I finally had time to stop and really think about things. I was finally able to start processing my trip and planning for the future. Since I didn't have an income at this point, I needed to figure out where I was going to be living. How was I going to survive this transitional time of my life? So I started to look a little bit deeper into pet sitting full time, filling my days with back-to-back sits, playing with cute cats and dogs, all while not having to pay for a place to stay. And because I like to have a goal and I like to have a little bit of structure, I decided to look for pet sitting opportunities in places that I've never been before. Visiting all 50 United States has always been a goal of mine, and here was an opportunity to knock a few more of the states off of my list. I heard a sad statistic that said only 2% of all Americans have been to all 50 states, and I want to be part of that statistic. So after a couple of fun weeks in Hawaii, I headed back to Utah to celebrate my birthday. I signed up for all sorts of loyalty programs so that I could go on this kind of extravaganza and drive around and collect all sorts of free stuff, and it was so much fun and I got stuffed. But it was a blast. It was something that I always thought would be really fun to do, and here was an opportunity to actually do that.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you.
So after a fun-filled week of birthday celebrations with friends and family, I headed off to another pet sitting gig in Madison, Wisconsin. pleasantly surprised by how much fun I had in Madison. I enjoyed myself so much, and I was actually really sad to go. But it was at this point that I actually secured a remote job. And it was one of those interesting moments because I've never had a fully remote job before like this, and so it didn't actually feel real until I got my first paycheck deposited into my bank, and that's when I was able to celebrate finally that I can do this. This is going to be my next chapter. After my 2 weeks in Wisconsin were up, I headed back to Utah one last time to say goodbye to friends and family, this time for 6 months. I then boarded a plane for Atlanta, headed off to Georgia, and spent the next almost full month of July in a little town called Greensboro, Georgia, right off the shores of Lake Oconee. And I was completely isolated for the entire month in this beautiful big house with the sweetest dog. And it was great because it gave me time to actually sit down and get into the routine of having a job and kind of getting more comfortable with what I was going to be doing. I met some new friends and had a blast. I really enjoyed the kitchen that I had because I could cook a whole bunch of fun things that I've like saved on Instagram and Pinterest and never really had an opportunity to do so. Of course, I made time to go on some adventures, but my focus was staying in and kind of relaxing and resetting and kind of building myself up, getting ready for this next big adventure that I'm going on in this season of life. So from Atlanta, I flew up here to Cleveland, where I'm knocking another state off of my list. I'm watching the sweetest 19-year-old cat. He looks like Grumpy Cat, but he's actually very, very gentle. He's 27 pounds. He's a big boy. And exploring the area of Cleveland. I'm actually staying in an area called Shaker Heights, which is really, really cute. My Cleveland video will be posting next week. And then I wanted to end this video with just a quick Q&A session. I've been getting a lot of questions, and here we go. So question 1, do I get paid to house sit? No, I do not get paid to house sit. I get to stay in people's homes for free, which I think is a fair trade-off. Question number 2, when am I gonna be moving back home? I answered this earlier. I no longer consider Utah my home. I have family and friends that live there, but that is not a place where I will be moving full-time anymore. I will always come back to visit, but that chapter has closed on my life as well. Okay, question number 3, where am I gonna be going? I don't wanna spoil all the surprises, so I currently have house sits booked in 3 different countries, not including the United States. I have house sits booked in 6 new to me states, but I will be going to more states because one of them is very close to another, and I'll be able to kind of explore and go check off a few more places. I'll be revisiting another state when I go visit some friends a little bit later in the year. Question number 4, what's next for you after house sitting? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm surprised that I booked myself out this far in advance, given the fact that at the beginning of the year, when I was in Southeast Asia, it was all about, not necessarily leaving stuff to the last minute, but more just going with the flow and just figuring it out along the way. Because I wanted to get these sits kind of scheduled, I had to kind of structure myself. I am toying with the idea of a couple big trips. I'm also really looking into the idea of a digital nomad visa in a couple different countries. Obviously that can change with the political climate. I'm not really sure. That's why I'm not banking on anything right now, but at the forefront, digital nomad visa, because I will be working and I won't be able to take off nearly as much time as I did like when I was in Southeast Asia. Next question, do you want to go back to Southeast Asia? Yes. It's the funniest question ever. Yes, of course I want to go back. There were places I didn't get to go, countries I couldn't get to because of the political situation there. But yes, I would love to get to Southeast Asia. I don't have anything planned in the near future to get back there, but I will be in the area early next year. So who knows? And the last question, are you going to be doing any wrap-ups of your trip? Yes, and I think this has to do with the fact that when I had my blog, I would always do end of year wrap-up posts where I would rank like my top favorite moments, my top, favorite foods that I ate, things that went wrong, just kind of like a nice little like recap of the year. I plan on doing that on this channel. I've actually been keeping a list of superlatives on my phone, like where I stay, best things I've eaten, which ferries have I been on, things like that, like just little fun things that I like to recap. So I will be doing that at the end of the year when I am in a location for a really long time. I'll be able to actually like sit down and film those. So that's it. That's my wrap up. Hopefully you are now up to date on where I am. To stay a little bit more up to date with me, you can follow me on Instagram at Adventures Never Far Away. It's also linked in the description. I try to post stories daily. I'm getting better at remembering to do that because as I'm doing these house sittings, for me now, it's just kind of become natural. This is my life. This is what I do. I work, I watch the pets, and then I explore the city, and I kind of have to remind myself that, hey, this is a little bit different. So somebody might actually want to see what I'm buying at the grocery store or what I'm making for lunch or where I'm taking the bus to. So I'm getting better at that. So that's it for now. I'm actually gonna head out and go on an adventure. We'll see you later.